And one of the real pleasures at teaching at the University of Chicago all those years was whenever I followed Milton Friedman to the podium, I could actually raise the microphone. It was wonderful. And then I started debating Robert Reich. Any of you know Robert Reich? I debated him, and it was easy to raise the microphone as well with Robert Reich. The only difference between Milton Friedman and Robert Reich is that I actually looked up to Milton Friedman. Hey, it's fun being in Knoxville again. It really is. And I guess, Pinnacle Bank is a lot of Knoxville connections there. Rob McCabe and Rob, are you here? You're from Knoxville, aren't you? Rob, and Rob's from Knoxville. And, of course, Mac Johnston. He also is from Knoxville. They live in Nashville. And Mac and your mom and dad are here. Barbara and Howdy Johnston. So it's fun. We got a lot of connections. The one friend who's also from Knoxville, I guess, is Lamar Alexander. Isn't he from Knoxville originally? He told me a story. He's not here today, so I have the right to tell a story on him. He was coming back from Washington. You probably all know this story. It's probably legend now. But he would come back from Washington with a senator, and he'd leave a car at the airport, and he'd go to his little cabin up in the Smokies, and he'd stop at this 7-Eleven on his way up there. All of you know, I hope you don't all know the story, but he'd go up there and he'd buy a little groceries at the 7-Eleven and take on off up there. And when he was buying his groceries, the lady behind the counter was checking his license to, check it to make sure it was okay, he was good for it. And she looked at his license, she looked up at him, she looked at the license, looked up him about 3 or 4 times, said, finally, were you named after that street out there? So it's a great story. And it's fun being here with Pinnacle, especially. I've been involved with Pinnacle from the day I moved to Tennessee. It is a great bank. I'm an investor. I own some shares. I'm a borrower. I'm a depositor. And I'm a talker for Pinnacle. So I don't think it gets any bigger and more than that doing it. But there is one thing that's sort of fun. Your Holiday Inn down here that you come through town? I was staying there a little bit ago, not long ago. And they have this little health club down below. They do. They have this little extra. I'm not a big health club guy. I'm really not. Well, you can guess that by just looking at me. But I was down there in the health club, sort of pretending to work out on the machines and all that. And I was doing all this stuff. And this very, very lovely, beautiful lady walked into the health club. So I tapped the manager of the health club on the shoulder and I said, you don't by any chance have any machines that would make someone like that attracted to someone like me, do you? And he says, as a matter of fact, I do. And he took me over to the Pinnacle ATM. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to have a little fun with you today. I'm going to leave a lot of time for questions. Today is a very exciting day. If you followed what's going on in Wisconsin, Scott Walker is in the race of his life. The recall, we'll see if the recall is successful. He's running against Barrett, mayor of Milwaukee. What's really happening that's really exciting in this country is you're seeing it not only in Wisconsin, although the battleground is Wisconsin. I mean, seriously, Wisconsin can go from Karl Marx to Adam Smith and back again in a long weekend. I mean, if any of you remember Lee Dreyfus, who was the governor of Wisconsin, conservative, really good friend of mine. Then it went to Tony Earl, who was a little bit to the left of Daniel Ortega. And then it went to Tommy Thompson, who was a conservative, worked in there. And now it's got Scott Walker. I mean, it really is a political bellwether. It swings like mad. And the battleground is in Wisconsin. But it's not just in Wisconsin. I mean, if you look at some of the liberal states that are moving in the opposite direction, you go to Vermont. They're moving farther and farther to the left every day with tax increases. Maryland, you see big tax increases there. If you look at Quinn in Illinois, Quinn has a huge tax increase in Illinois. I mean, it even upset Rahm Emanuel. And if it upsets Rahm Emanuel, it's got to be to the left of whatever, Karl Marx or whatever. But, I mean, you look at Minnesota. You have Minnesota there, which is Mark Dayton, governor of Minnesota. California. Have any of you been watching what's going on in California? I mean, Jerry Brown proposing to raise the highest marginal income tax rate from 10.3% to 13.3%. I mean, do any of you understand why I left California? No, really, do you understand why I left California? I mean, I try to explain it to them. If you have two locations, A and B, If you raise taxes in B and you lower them in A, producers and manufacturers are going to move from to. I mean, I explained it to him, and this guy, I was giving a talk at Harvard, said, I still don't get it. Why did you leave California? I mean, you know, it's just crazy. I mean, they're moving in droves. I just finished my book on California, which is called Eureka, How to Fix the California Economy. And I go through it in great detail, and I'll take you through some of that in a minute or two. But it is amazing what has gone on in California. I mean, these are the ones that are moving in the wrong direction. You look at the right direction. I mean, you see it in Oklahoma. Mary Fallin is trying to get rid of the income tax in Oklahoma over 10 years with no offset. I mean, pretty impressive. Scott Walker in Wisconsin, as I mentioned earlier. Chris Christie in New Jersey. I mean, let me tell you a little story about New Jersey. I'm just sort of wending this around. In 1965, now think of this. In 1965, New Jersey had neither an income tax nor a sales tax. Now, let me just go through it. In 1965, not all that many years ago, 47 years ago? New Jersey had neither an income tax nor a sales tax. It was one of the fastest growing states in the nation. It was attracting people from everywhere who were moving into New Jersey, and it was running a budget surplus. A year and a half ago, with my former student as governor of New Jersey, not Chris Christie, but John Corzine. All of you know John Corzine. He was a student at the University of Chicago, and I just want to put a warning label up. He was a C student. And now that I've heard all the stories about MF Global, I'm not even sure he didn't cheat to get the C. But a year and a half ago, John Corzine, New Jersey had the highest property taxes, the highest income taxes, the highest sales taxes. It was one of the slowest growing states in the nation. People were leaving in droves, and it was running huge budget deficits. How do they do that? I mean, this is the battleground that's going on. I mean, if you look at other states, you look at Kansas. Sam Brownback has just cut the income tax rate dramatically in Kansas. In Missouri, the Show Me Institute got rid of all taxes in cities except for St. Louis and Kansas City, and they have to have a referendum on the income tax in those two cities every 5 years, or else it's gone. I mean, you look at states like Indiana. Mitch Daniels, the day he took office in Indiana, signed an executive order undoing the executive order that had been done previously by Governor Evan Bayh, which allowed collective bargaining in the state of Indiana. He got rid of collective bargaining. Before he left office, he put in the right to work in Indiana. Mitch Daniels did. Just before he left office, he got rid of the estate tax in Indiana, phased out over 10 years. Mike Pence, who's going to be the next governor of Indiana, says that the first thing he'll do is accelerate that estate tax elimination, bam, and make it done immediately upon taking office. I mean, Ohio, John Kasich, I mean, a great job. Now, he got a lot of pushback from the unions, as you saw, and they reversed a lot of his policies. But even in this wonderful state of Tennessee, and I think he's a native, isn't he? Bill Haslam? Wasn't he your mayor? I mean, did you see what he's done in this state this year? I mean, he and people like Charles Sargent and some of the others got rid of our gift and our estate tax. It is amazing. When you talk about making a state attractive to investors, to people moving here, they've done it. They've done the pièce de résistance of making it attractive. So you are seeing a battleground going on in the states all over this nation. Rick Scott in Florida, who used to be in Nashville, used to be a native Tennessean, moved to Florida, and now the governor of Florida. All sorts of wonderful stuff is going on. It's not only at the federal level, it's at state and local levels. If you look at the federal level, the battle is amazing as it goes on. If you go back to 2008, you couldn't tell which player was playing for which team without a card. I mean, back then, you got Republicans and Democrats voting for the same bills. I don't know if any of you remember in 2007, with the last 2 years of Bush, we had the add-on to the farm bill, the add-on to the housing bills, both to stimulate the economy. A lot of Republicans voted for it. A lot of Democrats voted for it. There was no difference in the two parties. You had your first sort of Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid control of the House and the Senate. And they were pushing through this. The Republicans were sort of ashamed and embarrassed. And they were voting along with this stuff. In March of 2008, You had Larry Summers' $600 per capita tax rebate, $175 billion program to stimulate the economy. You all remember that, don't you?